Another man than gone. Another man than gone. Another man than gone from the county farm. Another man than gone.
In the terrible years of the Yevsov terror, I spent 17 months in the prison lines of Leningrad. Once somebody recognized me. Then a woman with bluish lips standing behind me, which, of course, never heard my name before, woke from the stupor to which everyone had succumbed and whispered in my ear. Everyone spoke in whispers there. "Can you describe this?" And I answered, "Yes, I can."
He had a long chain on. He had a long chain on. Had a long chain on. Had a long chain on. They killed another man. They killed another man.
Thank you for downloading Poet on Song, a podcast that proposes to love a poet with you and to accompany them through great music. My name is Mariama Antoine, and today it is the rueful cry of Anna Akhmatova, the voice through which 100 million screamed, that we'll explore. It seems to me that our society is entering some phase of completion, the end of a cycle, and we feel it, don't we? And this need for renewal of our attitudes, our institutions, our environmental practices, how we choose to share the Earth's resources. Here we are, 20 years into the 21st century, and as I see the staggering rise of populism in the world, I can't help but wonder, what is in store for us? Mikhail Gorbachev said that this century would either be all-embracing crisis or moral and spiritual healing. I am hopeful. I'm hopeful because I believe in the healing power of shared compassion. And if the artist is the antenna of the race, then the poet points to what is worth living for. And if we look back 100 years into the past and look at the end of that cycle, two things stand in my mind as great evils: the violence of colonization and the utter slaughters of totalitarianism. A system whose bitter fruit Akhmatova tasted. And what lessons on suffering does she teach? For me, it's the idea that the path to devastation is almost always the same. That though its manifestation may image different tableaus of that bloodiness, totalitarianism subverts our humanity, hurts us in harsh and corroding ways. Perhaps what I've learned best from Anna Akhmatova is that though suffering remains universal, it is a bonding aspect of the human psyche because we are so deeply connected in our ability to feel. Akhmatova's song is capable of articulating love with exactitude, with an emotional precision that cuts to the core of you. What makes her so powerful a voice is the emotional history she carries. It's that feeling documented about what tyrannous institutions do to the human soul. What happens to us when that compassionate part of ourselves is in retreat, when our baser instincts are masters of the public scene. I had heard of the Gorenko's aristocratic background. That was her last name, Gorenko. The queen of the pre-war literary scene she had been, her statuesque beauty, her lovers, Anna's lovers, I mean. But I had also heard of the husbands who had been assassinated or sent to the gulags, the son in prison to silence her. It was a heaviness that was uninviting to me because the suffering it reflected, well, seemed so overwhelming. Hers was a world where sorrow reigned and God did not save. But about 5 years ago, I was on a train on my way to Brussels, and because the article I had been reading mentioned Akhmatova, I googled the Requiem and read it again. I hadn't finished when I reached Brussels, but there were lines that remained with me like a chant. And as I walked to the taxi stand, I found myself repeating them. These were the lines. Not under the vault of alien skies, not under the shelter of alien wings. I was there with my people then, there where my people unfortunately were. Simple words, direct and clear, devoid of metaphorical layer, yet quick to the core of the emotion. No protection, no foreign aid. My entire country was hurting, and I hurt with them. I think that presence has to be one of the greatest demonstrations of love. Not the only one, but to me, the greatest. To be there. And to be there when you can do nothing to assuage the pain, but simply share it. Share it when the Black Marias, those were the police vans, are hauling off the neighbors, the friends, the lovers, the husband, the beloved son. Akhmatova never left Russia. Not for good anyway. Never stole away even when her particular circumstances might have allowed for it. In response to the brutal violence of the Great Purge, which lasted 2 years, from 1936 to 1938, and took the lives of at least 750,000 people and sent more than 1 million to the gulags. 1 million. In the face of that, like the solemn friend by the hospital bed, she held her country's hand. And it is her acknowledgement of that suffering that I find infinitely loving. It is that love that I began seeing when I spent more time reading her poems, that love that made me love her and made me want to share her poems with you. I think that Akhmatova's ability to illustrate love's purest emotional current was always there, and the wars, Stalin, the purges magnify it because then love became an expression of loss and therefore more potent. I want to read you a few of her early poems, which feel almost like preparation for the greater depth of feeling that the times would warrant. They are whimsical and saucy. It's all arrows, physical and lovely. I'm reading from the collections Evening and the one which made her household name in Russia, Rosary. And for all, I'm using the Judith Henschmeyer's translations. one was written in 1915. The palms of your hands are burning. The Easter bells ring in your ears. You're like Saint Anthony tempted by a vision. Why into the holy days did this certain day thrust his way, like the bushy hair of a crazed Magdalene? Only children love like this, and only the first time. Stronger than anything on earth is the light in those tranquil eyes. This longing is impure, the devil's snare. Wider than anything on earth was her hand. This one is sharp, caustic, full of irony, and it showcases her ability to hone in tiny moments that reveal an emotional state. The speaker visibly has been rejected and addresses her lover. I'm not asking for your love. It's in a safe place now. Please believe me that I won't write jealous letters to your bride, but take my advice. Give her my poems to read. Give her my portraits to keep. Really, you are such a lovely pair. And these little fools need the sense of total victory, more than friendship's casual banter, and the memory of the first tender days. When you have spent the pennies of delight with your sweetheart, and your surfeited soul feels disgust, don't come to me on my triumphant night. I won't know you. And how can I help you? I don't cure anyone of happiness. Akhmatova's ability to take snapshots of emotional states is perfected when she rids herself of amorous reveries and decides to bear witness to her people's devastation. And the poem that best catalogs this transition for me is In Memoriam, July 19, 1914. I'll read it to you in a minute. We age more than 100 years, and this happened in a single hour. The short summer had already died. The body of plowed plains smoked. Suddenly, the quiet road burst into color. A lament flew up, ringing silver. Covering my face, I implored God before the first battle to strike me dead. Like the burden henceforth unnecessary, the shadows of passion and songs vanished from my memory. The Most High had ordered it, emptied it to become a grim book of calamity. The lovers will evolve to beloved, and the beloved, invariably, Mother Russia. And inside this mother, the innumerable children lost to the shells. For me, it's impossible to divorce Akhmatova from that mother figure. And the Requiem, which grabbed me on that train ride to Brussels and never really let me go, is this beautiful psychological portrait of what it means to die, not with a bang, but a whimper, as Eliot had prophesied. And it is heart-wrenching because it speaks true to the wide mantle she weaves around her departed and offers us a woefully accurate account of how human beings crumble under the weight of having too much pain. In my mind, it is her greatest work. With parts memorized by different friends over years because it was too subversive and therefore too dangerous to put that grief to paper. Imagine that. It's incredible. Whenever I read the Requiem, I'm often reminded of Emily Dickinson's line, "After a great pain, a formal feeling comes." And there's formality to Akhmatova's Requiem. A distance, it seems, that only suffering can establish. Perhaps it's denial or the pain of realization that this is happening to me. How can it? Akhmatova, in the opening of the Requiem, alludes to the Streltsy. It's a mutinous regiment that are tortured and exiled for their crimes. But most importantly, it's about the fate of their wives. Perhaps I've said too much. Here's the prologue. That was when the ones who smiled were dead, glad to be at rest. And like a useless appendage, Leningrad swung from its prison, and when, senseless from torment, regiments of convicts marched, and the short songs of farewell were sung by locomotive whistles, the stars of death stood above us, and innocent Russia rioted under the bloody boots and under the tires of the Black Marias. One, they led you away at dawn. I followed you like a mourner. In the dark front room, the children were crying. By the icon shelf, the candles were dying. On our lips was the icon's chill, the deathly sweat on your brow, unforgettable. I will be like the wives of the Streltsy, howling under the Kremlin's towers.
Когда мы были на войне, когда мы были на войне, там каждый думал о своей любимой или о жене. Каждый думал о своей любимой или о жене. И я бы тоже думать мог, и я бы тоже думать мог, когда на трубочку глядел на голубое я дымок. Когда на трубочку глядел на голубое я дымок.
4. You should have been shown, you mocker, minion of all your friends, gay little center of Tarskaria's sallow, what would happen in your life? How 300 in line with a parcel, you would wait by the Christie prison. your fiery tears burning through the New Year's ice. Over there, the prison poplar bends, and there's no sound. Over there, how many innocent lives are ending now? Seven, the sentence. And the stone word fell on my still living breast. Never mind, I was ready. I will manage somehow. Today, I have so much to do. I must kill memory once and for all. I must turn my soul to stone. I must learn to live again. Less. Summer's ardent rustling is like a festival outside my window. For a long time, I've foreseen this. Brilliant day, deserted house. Epilogue 1. This is my favorite. I learn how faces fall, how terror darts from under eyelids, how suffering traces lines of stiff cuneiforms and cheeks, how locks of ashen blonde or black turn silver suddenly, smiles fade on submissive lips, and fear trembles in a dry laugh. And I pray not for myself alone, but for all those who stood there with me in the cruel cold and July's heat at that blind red wall. Epilogue 2. Once more, the day of remembrance draws near. I see, I hear, I feel you. The one they almost had to drag at the end. The one who tramps her native land no more. And the one who, tossing her beautiful head, said, "Coming here is like coming home." I'd like to name them all by name, but the list has been confiscated and is nowhere to be found. I have woven a wide mantle for them from their meager, overheard words. I will remember them always and everywhere. I will never forget them no matter what comes. And if they gag my mouth, through which 100 million scream, then may the people remember me on the eve of my Remembrance Day. And if ever in this country they decide to erect a monument to me, I consent to that honor under these conditions: that it stand neither by the sea where I was born. My last tie with the sea is broken. No in the Tsar's garden near the cherished pine stump, when inconsolable shade looks for me, but here, where I stood 300 hours, and they never unbolted the doors for me. This, less in blissful death, I forget the rumbling of the Black Marias, and forget how that detested door slammed shut, and an old woman howled like an wounded animal, and made the melting snow stream like tears, and a prison dove coo in the distance, and the ships of the Neva sail calmly on. Blessed be God, tells us Charles Baudelaire, who gives us suffering as the only divine remedies for our follies. This is where we end. This has been Poet on Song, and my name is Mariama Antoine. The music that you've heard on this podcast is as follows: Another Man Done Gone by Odetta, We Praise Thee by Pavel Chesnikov, interpreted brilliantly by Dmitry Vostovsky with the St. Petersburg Chamber Choir. Nikolai Kornev is the conductor. Six Impromptus, Opus 5 by John Sibilis, interpretation by Liev of Omnis. Melody in F, Opus 3, number 1 by Anton Rubinstein, interpretation by Mura Lempany. Salvation is Created, Opus 25, number 5 by Pavel Chesnikov, with the Pat Ramel Institute Choir. Vladimir Gorbik is the conductor. We Hem Thee by Pavel Chesnikov, interpreted by the Tenebrae Choir. Nigel Short is the conductor. Song of Turbulent Youth by the Eric Weinert Ensemble. Tears by St. Colombe, interpretation by Jordi Savall. Kagda mi bili na vayanye, When We Were at War, by the Stratensky Monastery Choir. Kindersinnen, Opus 15, number 7 in F major by Robert Schumann, interpretation by Ivan Morovec. Joy of the Celestial Forces by the Drevno-Ruski Rospevmel Choir. Liturgy of St. John, Chrysalim 5, Cherubimic Hymn. Andrei Zabaronok and the Bolshoi Theater's Children's Choir. Dark Eyes by Stenka Razin, Opus 13, interpreted by Philip Davenet and Marshall Murray. I hope that you'll stay tuned as I explore next the spirituals of the 19th century's great African-American poet, Paul Laurence Dunbar.